So great to be here. I've gotten to connect with a few people from the studio already, and it's been really lovely to meet you. If you're not familiar with Spate, we are an AI and market um, machine learning driven platform that really surfaces trends focused on Google search and TikTok. I can present a quick little intro deck of Spate, and then we can dive into a demo about what our platform can actually uncover. But that's really going to be what I'm focused on today, is just introducing you to the platform and hopefully answering any questions about how you might be able to leverage our data within your team and the different use cases that might be most relevant for your team as well. And let me just get started. So for those of you who aren't familiar with Spate, we were founded by two ex-Google employees, and during their time at Google, they got to see firsthand how honest people get with Google search about the things that they're curious about, concerned about, the problems they want to solve for. And because of that, they wanted to make this type of consumer insights data more accessible to a wide range of businesses. And so now today, what we do is we collect billions of signals across both Google and TikTok. We run them through machine learning algorithms, and we're able to see when a trend is speeding up, when a trend is slowing down, and how a brand or a stakeholder would be able to leverage that trend at a different stage of its life cycle. What this kind of looks like today is oftentimes in social listening tools that have become really popular on the market. You get to see exactly what people are liking, what they're exploring, or just what they're engaging with, but it can be hard to translate that to exactly what they're buying. And similarly, with a lot of sales data, you're able to see a purchasing pattern, but it can be very challenging to identify a common thread in the questions that people might be asking themselves, or the problem they're trying to solve for, or the concern that what's really at the root of the concern that they bought something for. And what this allows for is a lot of opportunity to uncover white space opportunities for businesses to then go in and either position a product, market a product, develop a product that is going to solve for some of those consumer needs. And that's our focus here at Spate, is focusing on the context behind a purchase. We do this through two different platforms. We have our TikTok data, where every single week we're updating over 15 million hashtags that we track and see how they kind of evolve week to week. We're able to see exactly when something is spiking or when it's falling. And then on a more granular level on Google, we're able to see what people are searching and what questions they're asking and the products that they're most interested in. And we're able to really quantify that demand that kind of exists in different categories. Any questions so far? Sorry, just checking the chat in case there's questions there.
All good. I think we're okay for now, but please feel free to keep on trucking along.
Amazing. Well, Spate works with over 200 brands today. We're primarily in the beauty space, and we've since expanded to personal care, wellness, home care, as well as food and drink. We also are working primarily with product development, marketing, and sales teams. And we also work with a lot of social media and content teams as well that leverage our data. And we help answer three big questions. What's the next big trend? Which brands are owning the space? And how to position a product? And I'm going to jump into our platform so that I can show you exactly how each of these questions gets answered based on our features. And let me just switch over really quickly. And we can go from there. At any point, if you would like to ask a question, you can always leave it in the chat or just go off of mute. No rules here. Please excuse me. I'm just signing in really quickly to the platform.
No worries at all. And Samir, just want to throw this in there for context. Why did Spate center in on beauty? Was there any particular reason for that, or?
Yes, I think that it was an area. I think something that's very important to us here at Spate is making a very sound prediction. And so I didn't mention this, but for our Google search, we actually we have a predictive model as well. And that was our first platform. We started on Google and then expanded to TikTok based on demand. But for Google, we make these predictions, and oftentimes what's rooted in understanding a trend is, like I said, understanding a trend's life cycle. And for a beauty product, that life cycle is a little bit easier to understand than it is for, say, fashion, where trends are very, very fickle and like can
Right.
change much more quickly. So beauty was a little bit more of a safe bet for our founders to make accurate predictions and use that as almost like the use case for us expanding to other categories as well.
Well said. Really appreciate it.
So when you open up our platform, this is what it looks like. And there are a couple different sections right here on the left that you can use to explore some of those questions that I mentioned. And so for that question of what's the next big trend, for Google, that's going to be found in our category trends section. And for TikTok, that's going to be found in the TikTok section. So going into the category trends section, you're going to be able to explore a really wide variety of categories with our dashboard. And so looking at beauty, we're able to filter down into more and more specific areas. If we click on hair and then we go to hair care products, we can get super granular based on the category that you're interested in. What this is helping do is oftentimes there's tools like Google Trends or, things that you're able to track what's popular on Google search. But what we do here at Spate is the platform is designed to make understanding mass amounts of information a lot simpler. And so the way that we do this is by how we sort things and how we kind of piece together the data. So I'm going to go over some of these health statistics that we have right here for each trend. First, we're sorting everything just based off of volume. So these are just the things that are they're searched the most frequently, not necessarily the hottest new trend. It's just we're seeing right off the top, people search shampoo the most out of hair care products. And then if we want to see what's picking up or increasing, we would go here. And we're seeing the most increase that we've seen in the past 12 months in terms of search volume is coming right there, almost 100K every month. And it's coming from hair oil, then dry shampoo, then hair growth oil. And then coming to year over year, that's going to show you basically things that have had the highest percentage of growth year over year. And so every single thing that you see here has a time series that is shown right here. This is not indicative of a branded search. So for example, people are searching just plain hair wash oil, that's going to be represented in this time series. And the reason for that is that we don't want to influence, let's say someone has a really big marketing campaign. We don't want that to spike the consumer data because this is really meant to represent exactly what customers are thinking about purely from their head. But what you will be able to see is the more general chatter around a conversation or category as well in this search query section. The search query section is where you're able to read through really qualitative perspectives on what people are saying. And by switching this to a table, you can see exactly how many people are searching these exact terms every month, how often they're being searched. And it's going to also include brands. So it's a mix of both. And that's where you'll be able to see how they rank against each other. Another way to tell that is by looking at the comparison between these first two numbers. The first number is the average monthly searches, and that's going to show you over the past 12 months, the average number of searches that this category is getting every single month. The second number is the average number of brand searches. So if someone is searching like Dove hair pre-wash, a specific brand, that's going to be represented in the second number. And so the proportion of the first number to the second number tells you how dominated the category is by brands in a lot of ways. So this is a good example of that, where you see the branded searches are higher than the regular searches. It means that this trend has already matured past the point of people like wanting to get educated about it and more towards people knowing exactly what product they want. Then this
And Samir, just to clarify, the second data column that you're hovering over right now, does that break down the different brands that are being searched specifically?
Yes, absolutely. And I can show you that on this next page. That is under our brand section. You'll see exactly where those brands are. And those three brands are accounted for right here. And I can also show you everything we were talking about on this page as well, because it's just an extended view of what we were seeing. But basically, what we're seeing here is the number of market leaders as well. And it doesn't look like there are a lot of market leaders, so it's pretty low. And then the final number and health stat that we give is our confidence score about how this trend is going to last in the coming year. It's our confidence score on our growth is right down here. So we feel very likely that the growth is going to happen. So we make our prediction but we have a 70% accuracy rate. We'll also give you our confidence score about how sure we feel about every individual prediction we're making, and that will be right here. Another thing I just want to review quickly are our clusters. So you can see these little green and red things right here. These clusters represent the way that a trend is growing, the shape that it's taking on. So something like a sustained riser is something that over a very long stretch of time, we're seeing that growth. Down in 2020, we're seeing only 72 monthly searches, and that's almost at 1,000 as of July 2023. So even though this is a very small trend, we see a lot of growth coming in the coming year. And because we've seen that steady growth for so long, the prediction is a safer bet. And in comparison, something like a seasonal riser is going to be something that is often associated with the time of year or a holiday or something going viral, maybe going away and coming back and going viral again. These trends are more volatile. And a good example of that could be dry shampoo, because, for example, dry shampoo in the summer tends to be a little bit more popular, or during certain times of the year. And our rising star, finally, is something that's probably going viral at the moment. And it's just having a moment. It's hard to tell if it's going to become a mainstay product, but it is having a moment. And if it does become popular in the long term, it'll turn into one of these other two clusters. Finally, we have these presets that can help you sort all of these trends in one place. And an early stage trend is basically going to be any trend that has low to medium volume of searches. So it's known by consumers, but it's not very well known. But there's a lot of predicted growth to come with most of these trends, or it's going viral, whatever it be. It's either a rising star or it's predicted to grow significantly in the coming year. And a late stage trend is something that has been around. A lot of people know about it. These aren't new things anymore, but there is still room for growth. And because there's still room for growth, or because it's a seasonal riser, it's down right now, it'll go back up. Then there's room for a brand to know this is a trend I could still hop on and I will still experience some success with. And then finally, we have our white space opportunity filter. This is filtering for areas where things are trending, but there aren't a lot of brands in the space. And again, this goes back to that initial conversation of controlling the narrative. And it becomes an opportunity when people open this up right now, they're searching just general searches. But there is going to be a time where a brand is owning this conversation, which we see with a lot of our more with trends that have a lot of market leaders. People are going to be searching for a very specific brand, which you can see right here. A lot more brands are going to show up. And so these white space opportunity, this filter is essentially showing you areas where you have room to still become the main brand that is at the center of the narrative for these trends. Before I move on, do we have any questions? Gonna keep checking the
Actually,
chat.
one very quick thing I dropped in earlier. You had showcased the predictability feature for
Yes.
different trends. How often is that updated? Or does it?
Yes. So all of our data gets updated every month.
Got it. Okay. Very.
Yes, because it's an average of the past 12 months. And obviously that metric is going to shift depending on where you're at in those 12 months. If you would like to see exact numbers, oftentimes people will ask us, they want to do quarterly planning or whatever it be. You're able to see the most updated results, of course, when they're updated for the month for those predictions. But if you want to see these different metrics, you can always export them as a CSV and then put them into Excel, and then you can chop them up into different sections of time rather than just year over year.
Super helpful. Thank you.
Of course, great question. And as I mentioned, it's really helpful to read through these search queries. It really gives you insight into exactly what people are asking and those questions that matter the most to customers, because oftentimes it's an opportunity for you to talk back to the customer exactly how they talk themselves. I think oftentimes brands tend to make the mistake of using words that they've created themselves or words that they prefer in their own copywriting or whatever it be. And it's not exactly matching the vocabulary that a consumer is naturally using. A good example of this is right now, the word clarifying is trending with consumers. You know, something like cleansing might mean the same thing, but it's not going to be able to communicate the same thing. And so it's not going to gain as much popularity with customers because they're not searching for that, even if the product you have developed does the exact same thing. And so that's why it's really helpful to use our related searches. Related searches basically show you exactly the words that people are using alongside a trend. You're going to see more results the more searches there are in general. But here, for example, we group them based on several different filters, which you can explore right here. But you're able to see exactly why people are searching for these things. And it looks like for this trend, people are still very much in the education phase. So, for example, a brand might look at this and reverse engineer that to think, okay, our packaging needs to be very informative and it needs to educate a consumer, or our content needs to inform them exactly how to use the product. So it just gives you a little bit more of a look into how people are thinking about a certain trend and how mature it is already. You can also see, again, the brands right there. And this isn't the perfect example because it's a bit of a smaller trend, I would say, with not as many brands in the space. But for some things, you're able to see how they're searched cross-category. So how something like, let's say we wanted to look up something like, let's say vitamin C as an ingredient in general. We would look it up like this. We would come down to industries, and that tab is essentially going to show you how this is performing across several different spaces. And so as an ingredient, it's pretty flat. It's not that popular, but in beauty, it's popular, more specifically in skincare. And then more specifically, this is the exact areas where vitamin C is trending upward for different product formats. And so this is just one of the ways that you would also be able to leverage data on different topics. That's most of the Google data in terms of understanding how to use it. The other way you would explore it is through our industry section. What this does is give you the opportunity, we can switch to skincare to see something different, but a higher level look at all of these different categories. You can see which subcategories are really increasing. This is declining as a category here, but on TikTok it is rising, for example. So it's helpful to compare the two sets of data. You can also see exactly what the top search queries are. And then you can have this same format. So once you get used to using one page in Spate, the other pages also become very intuitive. So here you're able to, again, if you want to look for all of the most popular ingredients in skincare or the most popular formats, you're able to see that. The benefits that people are looking for, the concerns, you can see all of these different things, and that's a great tool for, again, positioning. But you can also do that on every more specific page as well. So you can get as specific as eye care products and then go do the same thing if you would like to explore things more specifically. Those are just a few of the ways that you could, and you can also, of course, look at brands as well for competitive data. A few of the ways that you would use Spate for insights. And then we have the brand section, which is going to be able to show you, we can look at makeup, early stage brands that are becoming very popular. And so these are just examples of other small brands that are picking up. And you're able to then see exactly what they are creating and where they're gaining traction.
Samira, is it possible to potentially link a brand that isn't listed that's currently creating content on TikTok and then use the data from Spate to track its performance, whether it's a direct competitor that's smaller or even these founders' individual brands? Would that be a possibility?
Yes. So it definitely depends on search relevance. So what we do at Spate isn't a matter of like tracking as much as it is surfacing. And so people need to already be searching the brand for it to be pulled into the platform. You can see the threshold being like about 1,000 searches or even 500 searches. But what you can always do is suggest a brand. So I'll just type a bunch of letters. You can just suggest it like that. And then we have a team that reviews that every single week, every Tuesday, that gets updated. And your brand could be in the platform within a week if you feel like it's getting relevant search traction.
Oh, okay. Very, very helpful.
Yes. Or if you have TikTok traction, it might also just pull in your TikTok data because it could be popular on either platform.
Awesome.
So these are just some of the ways that you would use it for the brand section. We finally have watch lists. So what this can do is, let's say you wanted to look up a random brand. You could build a list of brands that you wanted to track, and you'd be able to see exactly how they're trending. This really helps contextualize the volume of searches and the popularity of things, because let's say I put it next to something, I don't know, much smaller. It's going to show you exactly the disparity between these brands.
Right.
And also the amount of growth. But what you can also use this for is to add trends related to, let's say you're developing a new vertical, or you're trying to decide like where exactly is going to be the most useful. You could just go ahead and add every type of cleanser you see. And then what you'll be able to do is just add all of those to this list. And when the data gets updated every month, you can come back and look at it, and you can tear it apart. If you're like, I don't want a list with that many, you can make it smaller and smaller so it's easier to read. But then you can build as many lists as you want, and it just becomes a centralized place for you to come in the platform when you log in, because then you're able to just look at the things that are the most relevant and research them. And then it also becomes a center for you to then go, and if you want to move to TikTok, that's just showing Google. You can just move to TikTok here rather than like going through the entire platform and finding trends. That's like a home base. And here we have TikTok, for example, just so you can see how a standard TikTok page looks like. You're going to have the time series. We don't make predictions on TikTok, mainly because it's just a little volatile. It tends to go up and down every single week. And we show you how big the trend is on TikTok in terms of how high the views are, how many of those views are actually paid, and we'll mark if they're paid, which you can see right here. And that gives you a little bit of insight into whether this brand is popular because of organic content or paid media. We'll show you the price point and then how many posts there are. The reason it's important to pay attention to how many posts there are is it shows how engaged people are with a product, trend, or brand. And the reason for that is, let's say there's 2 million views on a trend or a hashtag, and there's only 2 videos. It means that 2 people might have gone viral. It could be the same person, and it's not necessarily a trend worth meriting, not even really worth calling it a trend that's going to really influence people quite in the same way. Whereas more people joining in on that conversation, more people using the hashtag and having like content surrounding the topic, that's a really great health sign for a trend, because it means that a lot of people are engaged. Coming down here to related hashtags, again, we're seeing how combinations of hashtags are driving views. The same way how on Google, we're seeing how combinations of keywords drive a certain number of searches.
Right.
So here we're able to see it's a little bit different what you can learn on TikTok just because of how TikTok operates. Obviously, that what you're seeing here is people showing you their routine or showing you a tutorial. It's showing you like exactly what they bought, like a haul. And because of that, some of the things that you can learn from TikTok are very different than what you can learn from search, because it is rooted in entertainment and what people find entertaining versus sometimes what people find to be like the best possible product or like the most well-researched product. A lot of times people will go to Google to research something or to buy something, but to TikTok, they're coming to experience something. And so when you click on this TikTok filter, it's going to basically filter for almost like the trends that people are fitting a product into. So Olaplex, for example, hair tutorials, hacks, point of views, story times, fails. And so because of that, you're able to see lots of different examples of how people position the product. And again, in the same vein, you're able to position it the same way right back to them. And then you can also do something with demographics. So what this does is you're able to see exactly who's hashtagging these things. Typically, if someone is hashtagging mom life, they are mom. And while we don't collect data on individual users, we do collect these hashtags. And also on search, we collect things like over 40, if people search over 40. And those types of things filter into this demographic filter, which allow you to kind of see who might be viewing these things or searching these things. So
Wait,
that's
I'm sorry. This is all really, really awesome. This is kind of a lot. So I just want to make sure I'm catching everything. So on the demographic piece, is there a way to click on that and see what demographics are searching for what? Or did I mishear that?
well, yeah, you can see exactly what videos are coming up under this. And usually the majority of the content will be the demographic that is hashtagged, right? So it's a direct line to find content with the hashtag Olaplex, but also the hashtag mom talk, for example.
Oh,
And
so but it's not like a tangible um estimate on the specific demographic that is viewing the specific content. Does that make sense?
not necessarily, no. But I will say that just the way the TikTok algorithm works is that they're going to push that content to the people who resonate with that as a
Right.
community, and they use these hashtags to essentially reach those people. And so oftentimes the views that are being generated are going to be people who are watching all of this content be created.
Mm-hmm. It's hopeful.
Um, so it's also showing like even if I guess another way to put it is also saying even if someone who might be watching something from mom TikTok isn't a mom, it means that that mom content and the mom positioning is resonating with several people. And so I guess it's just giving validation to that too.
If we have a second, could we potentially play around with a different type of hashtag? Like, I wonder if there is a hashtag that might resonate for melanated skin as it relates to, skincare products. I'd be interested to see what I would assume Black consumers are interested in on TikTok.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we can go into TikTok trends and I can show you how we would kind of splice that out based on a related hashtag. So this TikTok section is where we like really surface all of our TikTok trends. And so let's say we went into skincare specifically and all of these different things. We're going to keep it broad just for now, but what we're seeing is this can be the week over week growth. So the most popular hashtags based on week over week growth, month over month percentage growth. So these are the things that have grown the most this month. This is the increase averaged over 4 weeks. And these are the views averaged over 4 weeks. If you want to see things with a higher threshold of views, I would click on late stage trends. It's basically going to filter for the trends that are a little bit further along in terms of having relevance in terms of post number and also number of views. It also usually means that there's a correlation or a good indicator that something is popular on both search and TikTok, which is incredibly important, just because oftentimes trends created in a vacuum on either just TikTok or just search don't lead to purchase. We're trying to really find the things that are getting the most general awareness from consumers. Also, this is representative of multiple demographics. Search tends to skew more general, and TikTok tends to skew a little bit younger. And so getting to see both perspectives side by side is great. Let's say we went to something, I guess we could pick any of these trends, really. I guess we could see maybe brightenings here. I don't know.
Maybe
Uh,
I think I saw vitamin C down there. That could be interesting.
oh, there
Uh,
we go. That's great. So vitamin C serum coming down here again. We're going to see what the top hashtags are alongside If you go to demographics, Black girl skincare is the top hashtag. So you would go in there and you would see exactly who's making those videos and what they're about. This is just from this week. But you can also go to all time and see what has the highest views. And you can also, there's lots of different hashtags that you can use to kind of see melanated skin.
Can you search different hashtags?
Yeah, if you're aware of them, you can always search the hashtag right here. But that kind of goes back to what I was saying. Sometimes the hashtag that you think that someone might be using alongside a trend isn't what they're actually using. And so that's why this demographics filter can be helpful, because something like melanated skin, for example, would be tracked under demographics. You can see how it's being searched in beauty, skincare. It looks like it's searched most frequently with sunscreen. And then if you feel like it's not being added, or if you want the platform to emphasize it, you could just suggest hashtag melanated. And then also hashtag melanated skin. You can suggest as many as you want, and they'll get updated within a week. And then all of the data in the entire database also gets retroactively updated for its entire time series.
Right. A quick aside for a lot of our founders that are on TikTok Shop, this tool is incredibly valuable. I think it's important to mention that if you really want to leverage the most you can from TikTok, you have to be on TikTok, right? Like, it seems like Spate does generally have a broad viewpoint, which is very helpful, but I imagine those niche pockets would be really interesting to have insight on before they totally pop. So if you're not on TikTok, but you're trying to sell on TikTok Shop, I'd encourage you to get on, do some studying, test out some different hashtags, see what's moving before it really pops, and then come over here to Spate and see if you can, see how it's performing. And then from there, decide whether or not it's worth investing dollars and time into promoting, So just wanted to throw that out there. But this has been really awesome, Samira. Really, really cool.
Yeah, of course. I think oftentimes we have our clients tell us that, they're past the age of someone who would want to be on TikTok, or like they don't have the interest to be on TikTok. And it's a nice way to be able to see a lot of videos in one place. But I will say what we're filtering for is what's trending across the entire category. It's very much not focused on demographics as an entire platform. I think it's more of a demographics tend to play a role in terms of positioning, more than it does in terms of like on look from the get-go, unless that's the trend, unless that's the exact trend that is being surfaced. And so that's why it is really helpful to kind of suggest things. And that's why it's so great that we have so many huge brands in the platform already, because oftentimes they're also doing the work to say, you need to be tracking this. And then we're able to then update the platform within a week and track it as well. So we're always getting suggestions. We obviously have the methodology here at Spate is essentially we have one team that is focused on running, scraping the internet. It's more like we like to call them like our little robots, I guess, that scrape the internet and get as much data as possible. Then we have a human team that is very much hands-on. Their job is to look through every trend and make sure that it's relevant and useful. And we have 5 markets. So we have the US, UK, France, South Korea, Japan. These are all the markets where a lot of beauty trends tend to originate, especially with South Korea and skincare. It's very frequent. Fragrance in France is very frequent. So these are just some of the ways that we're able to surface trends from around the world. And we have people in those markets that are of that origin that are actually making sure that these are relevant. And so in the same vein, then when we're able to kind of like put the data together, we make sure we have the most relevant data. And then the third piece is that we also try to see how brands and the industry itself is influencing beauty. And so we'll track certain news sources. So let's say like Allure or Vogue Beauty or whatever it be, we'll make sure that we're including keywords that they might find important if we're also seeing search relevance for it.
Got it. And a quick aside, Does Spate also track Instagram and like Facebook as well?
We don't. I think that the goal with Spate has always been to uncover different perspectives that complement each other rather than telling you the same exact thing. And that's why you do see a difference between search and TikTok sometimes, because they're telling you different things about a trend or a product. And so what we found is that with search and TikTok, they're telling you two different things that very much complement each other. Whereas if we were to track Instagram data, a lot of the trends that you see on Instagram, you would also find on TikTok.
Right. Well, a lot of
So
that, a lot of those videos are copied and pasted and, shared on Instagram, Twitter, and a lot of it really comes from TikTok, which is interesting. So,
yes.
yeah.
So that's kind of an overview of the platform. I'm always available via email if you want to reach out and ask questions about the platform. I believe we're starting the new cohort soon to onboard people into a free year of Spate. I think you can get more information on that from Ryan, and we'll be doing check-ins every 6 months. So I'm really excited and I'm happy to have been here.
Very comprehensive presentation, Samir. It was amazing. We're going to leave the floor open for the next couple of minutes for some Q&A. So if you all have any questions about how to leverage the platform, please feel free to come off mute, throw it in the chat, and ask a question.
Hello, thank you.
Hi.
Thank you so much for that comprehensive overview. So I think it's probably been about a year since I've been on Spate, but to be honest, I haven't really dug into it until just recently. So probably the last 3 months I've been playing around in there and going in there and grabbing hashtags and just trying to learn as much as I can about the platform. I spent some time in there yesterday as well. And so I would need to know when my year is up and then if it's possible to get an extension to just play around in there some more.
Yes, absolutely. So we do have our pricing that is 50% discounted for any of you if you want to subscribe to Spate after your trial is over. I have a list of all of your dates in terms of when things expire. If you feel like you haven't gotten use of it, Ryan, I'll leave this to your discretion in terms of exactly how you would like to, if you want to, depending on the demand, because I think I want to be fair to the number of people that are coming in for the new year and having a full year. But if you haven't had a chance to leverage the platform and you would want it for another 6 months, I mean, that's fine on my end. But I just to give you the time to plan or budget or whatever it be, we do renewals in 6 month cycles. So on my end, that's fine. If someone feels like they really haven't used the platform and they want to be pushed to that next cycle, we can resume the conversation in 6 months after you've had some time in the platform. And then you'd be open to having 50% off of our total pricing. So
Yeah, because it really is kind of intimidating when you see it for the first time. But then
totally.
once you dive in, you get used to seeing the data and things are familiar to you. So I feel like I'm finally, I feel I finally have a grasp on it and just want to play around some more.
That's great to hear.
I appreciate you raising that question, Devana. If you all have any questions regarding your current subscription, please feel free to email me and we'll book a call if we can't settle things over email. I will say this, we'll likely leave it case by case. So if you have questions, get in early, right? Because we are going to be bringing in another cohort sometime soon. So I'm going to go ahead and throw in my email inside of the chat. And if you all want to discuss where you're at with your current Spate membership, whether you're not onboarded and you want to look at the next steps regarding onboarding, just shoot me an email and I will collaborate with Samira and their team regarding next steps. But we do, of course, want to leave room for some of the new people as well. So if you have interest, get in now, like email me now, and we'll work it out. So thank you. Okay. Sorry.
And Ryan, please feel free to pass along my email to anyone who has questions.
We'll do. And actually, Samir, we'll CC you on it or BCC you want to spare your inbox, but just so you have some visibility, I'll be sure to loop you in to these conversations.
Wonderful. Well, any additional questions before we hop off? All right.
Well, very, very helpful. Actually, I will wrap up just quickly with this, Samira, it just hit my head. You touched a little bit on it during the presentation, but we have a lot of founders that are creating products that they believe are more targeted towards an older demographic that they don't find would be on TikTok. In terms of the demographic of TikTok, do you find that that's a misconception? Or do you think that it's fair for people to assume that TikTok is primarily used by teens and folks in their, 20s and 30s? Do you have
That's a
any?
great question. I think that there are a lot of obviously young people on TikTok, but there is a very rich community of people that is older and creating content. And ultimately, what you're trying to see is a window into what's resonating with that community and creating for that community. I don't know that it's so much about volume as much as it is about the insight that you get from the actual community that does exist there. And they very much exist on TikTok. There's lots of creators who are over 60 even. So I definitely think it's just filtering for those things, finding the trends that are kind of popular in those communities. For example, something that's very popular right now is something called crepey skin, or mature skin, of course, but those are all things that are just very niche to obviously not young people. And so I think finding those trends and seeing what those problem areas are for people, even if there are fewer perspectives, they're still incredibly valuable because they're putting themselves out there to make videos. I think they're representative of a lot of people.
Well said. Well said. Well, Samir, again, very, very great presentation. We really appreciate the time, and we look forward to continued collaboration around Spade. I think this is going to be a really great resource for our community. But everyone, thank you so much for attending today's session, and we will see you tomorrow. Have a good one.
Bye.